Hello, Emily.
Hi, good to see you again.
The same. I'm happy to see you again. And I'm talking to Emily Windsor-Cragg, who is a daughter of a former UK king, Edward VIII, who abdicated 1936. And Emily has studied history and has great knowledge in many fields. And what are you going to talk about, Emily, today?
Well, I'm working on his biography always and trying to clear his name because he was accused of being a Nazi following Adolf Hitler. And so I've had to figure out what was going on in his life that made him walk away from the throne when he did. And what I found back in the teens when he was growing up was that a faction, a spiritual faction out of the theosophical movement had made a decision around after Queen Victoria's husband died. Within 10 years, the Freemasons had decided that there was no leadership anymore. And so Albert Pike, the Grand Commander of the Freemasons in southern United States, wrote in some letters to a Dr. Massini that the time had come for the Freemasons to assert their Luciferian faction dogma and to stage 3 world wars to bring on the biblical apocalypse. Okay, so that faction, the theosophical Luciferian faction, has been operating in covert, in secret now for a century and a half. And they have, because they operate by doctrine and dogma, not by adjusting and adapting to real events. They're working from a set belief system and a set strategy. They have imposed their strategy of Albert Pike on the world for the past 150 years. And so I, of course, have to ask myself, well, where did that come from? Where did the Sumerian, when I was a kid, I studied with the Rosicrucians for a year, and they operate from this dogma, this doctrine, this belief system of you face the east and you put all your emblems here and there and you recite this. And I thought to myself, how dull this is to recite old stuff over and over again. And so I left that and went on to something else. But I want to give just a little summary, a little thumbnail summary of where that doctrine came from. And I go back in the Voyagers 2 book by Ashiana Dean, because she has an account of the earliest existence of the world that we live on, that we have available to us. There is no account that's older. Even the Vedas don't go back as far as Ashiana Dean's account does in Voyagers 2. Okay, and those of us who do this work of watching and reporting, going back into history, have to be faithful to our source in order to keep our source over the years. So that my source for my information is the engineer creator who threaded together our ecosystem, who's known as God. Okay, he and I have been talking for a long time, 25 years. And he's been telling me his perspective. Now, he's a scientist, this Yahweh guy. He's a scientist. He is not Enlil. He is not Anu. He is not Jesus. He is not Allah. He is himself, okay, an engineer scientist who not only threaded our current energy management system together, but he maintains the polar energy system that keeps, the world is a toroid in its energy management, okay? I hear a lot about this, okay. So the creation, the world itself and how the world operates is the basis upon which I make all my comparisons about human social behavior. We have to compare human social behavior to animal social behavior. Now online, you know, we have all these cutesy little videos about how one species of animal makes friends with another. You know, a goat will make friends with a dog, and a cat will make friends with a mouse, and a bird will make friends with a cat or something. These interspecies friendships exist, and they are possible. And so among humans, intercultural friendships are possible. They exist. And in the galaxy, what we know from the Pleiades and from the law of one, and from the prime directive we heard on Star Trek, but Eisenhower never bought into. One culture is not supposed to interfere in the matters of another culture. If you are a star traveler, and you go to another world, the prime directive says you're not supposed to meddle in the culture of the other world. Now, does NASA meddle? Yes, NASA meddles. NASA bombed the south pole of the moon. They sent a nuclear engine into Saturn this last year, and sent a nuclear engine into Jupiter about 10 years ago. So NASA is unschooled when it comes to the prime directive, which says that they're part of a faction in which competition, hoarding, and waste are okay, all right? Whereas nature is part of a belief system in which competition, hoarding, and cruelty and waste are not a part. So I've chosen to be part of the faction that believes that competition, hoarding, waste, and cruelty are not necessary, because I already know different people that I can be friends with. They have different thoughts in their head. Cool. You know, they think whatever they want, but their behavior and my behavior can match, and we can not interfere with each other's culture. Now, in ancient days, according to Voyagers 2 and Ashiana Dean, there were 5 racial groups that existed before the 1,000 Years' War. There was black, white, brown, yellow, and red, okay? And each of those racial groups had a path to ascension, that their souls could stop being in human bodies and ascend to become more holographic bodies in a life, an extended life that was not contained in a physical vessel like we are. You know, we're sort of like in vehicles. All right. And in those ancient days, the primary business of this world was mining. And if you want to ever look into that, there's a YouTube channel. This wonderful Russian woman who remains anonymous, but she's put out hundreds of videos on the history of Siberia and the mining history of this world. It's called New Earth on YouTube. Fascinating woman, and the evidence she shows going back millions and millions of years is just wonderful. Now, the Sumerian cuneiform writings talk about the mining business, principally in South Africa, also in South America. But as it turns out, in the southwest part of North America also, gold has been found and mined extensively. As further proof that that mining business was run by people who look like us, yesterday I went on a little mine trip on YouTube. You know, you can drive all over Europe, okay? I've driven all over the EU with Patrick, the trucker, and with the guy who drives in London, and he drives in the Czech Republic too, okay? When I get tired of doing book work, I sit behind the wheel of a car and I drive around Europe. Well, yesterday I was driving around Switzerland. It was my first experience in Switzerland. And because of my experience with digital imagery and seeing photographs differently than a lot of people need to, all right, I noticed that the mountains, the Alps, have these huge terraformed faces. They couldn't have been carved. They had to have been blasted, okay? Terraformed faces all over the Alps. And we have a mountain nearby called Cobb Mountain. And it has terraformed faces all over it too. And that's what the New Earth YouTube channel shows, is that the stone technologies of the peoples way back when, during the time that mining was the principal occupation on this world, that they weren't just mining, they were also building tunnel systems to keep away from the giants. They were building mountains where they didn't have any mountains. You know, there are about 40 stone pyramids all over the world that were built for some reason or some purpose. And my thought is it's probably a energy generating system is what it appears to be. So they built pyramids. They carved out underground enclaves for safety from bigger people because they didn't want to be eaten. And they carved their faces into mountains. And this explains why, when Moses gave the 10 commandments, number 2 commandment was, don't make any more faces. Don't make any more pictures of people, because there were faces just everywhere. So apparently Yahweh, the engineer who got the world operating after it failed at one time, he was sick and tired of all the faces. All right. So the Anunnaki built mountains and they built pyramids and they mined. And they are a 5th dimensional race, which is to say, they have physical bodies like we do, but they have achieved 4th dimensional dominance. What is the 4th dimension? Time. Okay. They are eternal. And so they're 5th dimensional beings. They're working on the problem of chaos and order. Okay. They're in the order. Okay. Now, you know, each dimension is a frequency. They're called the solfeggio frequencies. And at each of those particular frequencies, matter precipitates. So that at each of those frequencies, there is a consciousness that manifests in certain ways of thinking. So 5th dimension, 7th dimension, 11th dimension, 13th, 17th, 19th, 23rd, 29th, each of those prime number dimensions has a consciousness that acts in a certain respect or way. Okay, like a prime number function, but we can get into that later. So along this whole time stream, we have had teachers that some of them agree and some of them don't agree. And that's our problem now. We are facing a leadership who are acting in very destructive ways. The chemtrails are destructive. The fluoride in the water is destructive. The wars are destructive. The competition between cultures is destructive. And so we, the people who don't want to be destructive, have to figure out, because we're certainly not being encouraged to do anything differently from our leaders, we have to figure out what to do. Okay, so what we do is we take basically an outline of the teachings we've been given and we figure out whether they work, because Yahweh gave a group of instructions to the Jews that were very detailed. They were very detailed. And the way the Jews publish them now, they call them 613 mitzvot, and it's up on their Jewish website. And you cut and you paste them into a text file, and you edit, and you put everything that's alike together and everything that's different. You take it apart, and you organize it. You know, it's like organizing a closet, all right? So I took the Holy Law and I organized it, and I looked at it and I said, okay, now what? And what I noticed about it was that there's a bunch of behaviors. If you do these things, you get a good outcome. And if you don't do those things, you get a good outcome. So the whole purpose of that law is to have a society in which the outcomes are good. Cool. You know, that works for me. All right. So that is the basis upon which law ought to work, so that the outcomes work for good people. Now, my master's was in conflict analysis, conflict resolution, and negotiation and all of that. And what we worked for was a win-win outcome. So that when you have a dispute, you don't have to have somebody lose for somebody else to win, which is zero sum. You can get a solution in which both people win. Okay, that's better. So there are teachers that teach problem solving, and there are teachers that teach self-care, and there are teachers who teach relationships. Jesus taught relationships beautifully. I realized that when I was about 6 years old. And there are teachers that teach law. So as adults, we have to analyze our situation, because we have been confronted historically by abductions and by slavery ever since humanity has been here. So if we're not going to buy into what we're being told by the media and told by leadership, and they're all crazy anyway, who are we going to listen to? All right. And what are we going to listen to? Now, I tried joining the church. Okay. I've been to the Orthodox, Conservative, Reformed, and Real Constructionist Jewish shul. Okay. And they were just like the Christian, non-denominational, Calvinist, Anabaptist, you know, they're just like the churches. They teach a doctrine and a dogma, but they don't teach reasoning or how to solve problems. So that's why I sort of got away from being in the church anymore, because their beliefs are more important than their reality is. You know what I mean by that? They have a belief set that's absolutely set, and the reality comes second to the beliefs. And in my way of thinking, the reality comes first and the beliefs come second. Okay. Because to me, the reality is the creation and the diversity and the relationships that one can achieve with another, which is that of trust. How do we get to trust? Because trust is what a society is built on. And if you can't get to trust, how can you have a society? If you can't trust people, if you can't understand people, that doesn't work. So when you have competition and hoarding and cruelty, you don't have any trust. So where do you go with that? In order to permit peace, somebody has to hamstring and confine the competition and the hoarding and the cruelty. And that's the job of law, to write laws so that good behavior gets a good outcome and bad behavior gets corrected so that it becomes a good outcome. Okay. At the same time, we have to have a legal system that permits problem solving, initiative taking, dissent, even division, balkanizing, and novelty. All right. So that's where we've been. Now, we need to think about where we're going. I bet you have some thoughts about that.
Yeah, really, I have, because we are in big troubles.
We are in big trouble, yes.
And it's like your country, United States, Britain, the two countries that I am citizen of, Sweden and Czech Republic. Today I have read in msn.com that in Sweden they will give leaflets to the citizens that like it's a preparation for war, and they are attacking Russia, like with words that it's Russian fall.
Russia?
Yeah, and again, Freemason, you see the words that they choose. It's like CC, crisis and catastrophes, and it's third letter C. So it's 33 CC everywhere.
Oh, I see.
Like Freemason.
Well, they're the ones that want to have the war. They want the apocalypse. They want the end of humanity.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why they want the end of humanity. Has a Mason ever explained that to you? I don't get it.
I haven't talked to them. I know that we have a police chief here who is most probably Freemason, and he tried to kill me, so I cannot talk to him. He just want to assassinate me. It's like it's a plague of humanity, and they are Luciferian. They are Satanists, so sacrificing people different ways, like transport children for sacrifice, or they threw somebody out of window and say that.
You know the difference between Satanism and Luciferian?
Maybe not as you.
Okay, the Satanists, are individualists like Ayn Rand. They're for me. They're just me. It's all about me. I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that. And they develop themselves according to metaphysical principles to increase their psychic energy. And that's why they cannibalize children, because they get their psychic energy from children. Okay, now Luciferians are different. Luciferians say, it's not about me, it's about society. Our society is the best society, is the only society, okay? Luciferians set their society as being righter than anybody else's society, and they compete with and they destroy other societies because they judge that they're better than other societies. So it's another case of competition, hoarding, and waste, which the creator does not exhibit in the creation itself. And so it's hard for me to believe that anybody who sets competition and cruelty and waste as an ideal it's hard for me to believe that that comes from God in any form or other, because the creation doesn't act that way. Yeah. So that's the difference between Satanism and Luciferianism. It's a me only versus our society only. Yeah. That's what I found out about those people.
Yeah.
And they all operate from beliefs, beliefs, never the true human predicament, human relationships, human trust. That's a game to them. Do you notice the gaming in our societies, in fashion? You notice it's a game. They change the styles every year, and they expect us to buy them. I'm an old lady, so I wear the same style from decade to decade. It's all the same. But what these young girls are doing to their bodies and what they're wearing reflects, I don't know, what do you think they're thinking? They look so sad.
Yeah. They are pushed by mind control into buying and buying and buying and
Buying and buying and buying. That's the hoarding of the predator. Yeah. And they look so silly, and they're not being taught in school the words to get along with people. It's almost funny, but now in the United States, there are newscasters who interview people on the street and ask them simple questions that children learn in school, and that people can't answer anymore. They can't figure arithmetic. They don't know geography. They can only mimic and repeat what they hear on the television. That's not education, It's sad.
yeah, I will talk to Charlotte Isabit, who is, I don't know if you know her. She is from United States, and she has worked for Department of Education.
Yes, I've seen some of her videos. Yes.
Yeah, and she's a whistleblower. She told us that there is actually a conspiracy to take down the education and destroy the children. And
Yes, well, Bill Gates Foundation paid the money to develop the Common Core curriculum, which destroys the ability of the child to think in terms of causes and effects and sequences of operations and factoring. Children are not taught factoring. We learned factoring in algebra when we were children because we wanted to be able to manipulate numbers. But factoring should have come up in social studies when we look at a problem like mechanization or like population or something. And each problem, if you analyze the problem, has parts to it. Okay, like mechanization has to do with measurement, has to do with observation, has to do with regulation. It has a lot of parts to it. If you've ever run a supply line, you have a lot of people you have to deliver to. All right, but the schools don't teach the skills anymore. And so the children who are homeschooled are doing much better than the children who go to school in schools. Of course, parents who have to work are stuck because they don't have time to teach skills to their children. But that's what we, the elders, are now noticing, is that grown-up people lack the skills to organize themselves into interest communities and take care of each other. you know. When I was a little girl and I was growing up in a Russian Bolshevik atheist family, okay, I was a foster kid in that family. They were atheists. They didn't go to church. They hated church. But they had an old folks home that they all supported. And all the old people from their community went to the same old folks home, and they all got taken care of in their last years. They had the sense to know you have to take care of your old people. In today's society, nobody cares for the old people. They have their Social Security payments and they're on their own. They have to do everything, just like the young people do, the old people. And so we have to learn again that hospice isn't just for people who are having cancer. Hospice is for people who are older. Hospice is for people who are disabled by war and pollution and stuff. We have to start taking care of each other again. And we have to do it without the encouragement of either the leadership, the government, or the media. We have to do it on our own initiative. This is a hard lesson. It's a hard lesson to realize that the caring that we got as infants, we're not going to get as elders.
Yeah. We are under attack by mind control and from all.
Yes. So what we do is we sprout our own ability and our own skills to encompass what they have pushed away from us, what they have taken away from us. We have to start over. We have to plant new seeds in caring for each other and in getting along together, and not just the seeds of live and let live. You see, people today are living with addictions, they're living with abuse, they're living with slavery and social services profiteering, medical profiteering. Not socially responsible. How can we start taking care of each other again? That's the question I keep asking, because the people that I live with don't care. They don't care. That's the problem that I confront every day. People don't care. My neighbors don't care. The little community that I'm part of, they have a website, and it's a nice little website, and people show up there and they tell their problems and they tell their issues, but they don't care. So we need to start caring again. And it's wonderful that I have met you, because you've got me caring about the Czech Republic. I have been driving all over the Czech Republic, and I have to tell you, it's a beautiful place where you live. It's lovely.
Thank you. I like it here also.
Yeah, and the roads are very wide and everything is clean. So your people are still caring about your country. If you've seen the latest videos coming from the Los Angeles area of California where I live, well, for one thing, part of California is seceding from the rest of California. In fact, there's a bunch of parts seceding. But the part that's breaking away is Los Angeles. And the latest videos coming out of Los Angeles, it looks like a third world country. There's garbage everywhere. Garbage, homeless, tent cities, traffic. It's horrifying.
Yes.
So I just don't go down there anymore. I don't go down. Now, the northern part of California, 11 counties in Northern California, they're seceding, and we're calling ourselves Jefferson. And the part of California along the coast is calling itself New California. So California is breaking up because the governor is a Jesuit. What do they call him? Governor Moonbeam. They call him Governor Moonbeam, and he's Jesuit trained globalist. And he's almost as whacked out as Trudeau in Canada and Merkel in Germany. He's just totally out there. And you don't know whether to laugh at him or cry, you know, because he's such an idiot. Yes, we have to take some new initiatives. Now, do you live in an apartment or a house, or how do you live there?
I live in an apartment, and most of my life I've lived in Sweden. And when I started to work with the Secret Service first it started with British, the Secret Service that are in Britain, which is Britain, United States, and Israel. They were attacking me. They wanted to kill me. And then it spread that even the Secret Service here and military want to kill me just because to make me shut up, that yes. I cannot continue. And so it's all the time harassment here. So they forced me here, actually. I would lived in Sweden if I wouldn't work against New World Order.
Oh, okay. And they forced me up here to the country. I got on the red list, they call it. The FEMA calls it the red list. When I lived on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. back in the 90s during the Clinton administration. And during that administration, I was exposing the Clinton corruption. And they put me on their red list. Okay, so then I lost any job that I could hold. I lost any housing that I could obtain. They interviewed my family, and that's when they began withholding any medical care that would actually help me out. Then that was about 1998, 99. 2001, they started hitting me with microwave bursts in the middle of the night between 2 and 3 a.m. Those just stopped recently. Now, I understand that the microwave broadcasting against people on the red list, the targeted individuals, okay, is a artificial intelligence function. It happens automatically by computer operation, but I can't prove that, but that's what I've heard. So anyway, I've somehow lived through all of their microwave bursts. I have lived through several attempts on my life. Okay, I've had to flee 2 or 3 times. I know what you mean. They want me dead. And recently, I made some overtures to the law enforcement today. See, my master's is in conflict analysis, negotiating, and facilitating. And so I've been trying for years to get in touch with law enforcement professionals just to compare notes, just to talk about the time of day and how are you and what's going on in Europe, because I'm in a field that's right next to their field. You know, we do the same kind of work, we negotiate. And they are scared to death of me. They're scared to death of me. They won't talk to me. First, they encouraged me to write them an article. So I wrote them a little summary, a little article, and then they slammed the door. And so law enforcement are colluding in the United States with the leadership layer that don't tell us anything that's true, run off maritime admiralty and impersonal laws that are just corporate statutes. There's no human rights in them. And so law enforcement in the United States is truly broken. It's really sad. It's because they're very They're sincere, but they have such a narrow set of rules. They never look at the context in which their rules are operating, and they compete and they hoard, and they're cruel, and so they're part of the problem. And that's really too bad, because they mean well. You know, it's like soldiers mean well. Soldiers believe that they are protecting the nation. They believe that destroying somebody else is helping your country. Now, the way I heard it from my source, destruction is never a blessing. Life itself is not the problem. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, what I wanted to say also about the military, that you said that like the soldiers, but it's the lowest ranked soldiers, that they are maybe patriotic, but up there it's a plot of criminals. Many of them are hardcore criminals.
They're in factions. They're divided against each other. The military has the black hats and the white hats and the different services, and they compete against each other like another Congress. So there are good soldiers, there are bad soldiers, and there are those in between. And like the police, you cannot trust or rely on a uniform. And that's where the citizen has the problem of not being able to just trust somebody who's wearing a uniform. Trust is always the issue. Who can we trust when we go shopping?
Well, at least we should start with this organization that we could declare to be deeply criminal, involved in genocide, and it's Freemasons now.
Yeah.
Really, so forbid everybody, all countries should forbid them, and also
the Jesuit Vatican. There are other factions in the Vatican that are harmless. The Trappists, the Marists, the Dominicans, the Benedictines, those are peace-loving factions within the Vatican that don't cause any problems. It's the Jesuits that cause the problem.
Then you have Knights of Malta.
Knights of Malta, right. You have the Order of the Bath, the Order of the Thistle, the Order of the Garter, and the Order of St. John. They all follow the Freemason doctrine line and practice. You have to know, what about the Templars? The Templars are split, okay? There's the white hat Templars that are peaceable, and there's the black hat Templars that carry a sword and are ready to go to war again against whoever, okay? What about the Shriners? What about the, these benevolent organizations? Well, what are their methods? What are their methods? Now, our government in the United States has been acting like a mafia for about 40 years. And Mr. Trump says that he's here to change that. Can he? I don't know. But when he wears out, there's nobody to replace him. And that's scary. So I'm still looking forward to coming over to Europe and to getting to Britain and doing a lot more research. I want to go to Ireland, to the Dublin Library. They have thousands of books in Gaelic. They have a whole history in Gaelic. And you see, our English history was destroyed by the Council of Nicaea and the Council of Trent because the chronology of Jesus Christ is wrong in the Bible. He was not born 3 BC. The cauldron places his birth at 1072 AD. Now that is 1,075 years difference. So our chronology, our historical chronology is wrong. And I think that we can fix it if I get to Dublin and learn Gaelic. So that's my goal, to get to the UK and stop having to see the countryside from my desk chair watching YouTube videos. It's so funny, the man that drives around London, you know, he's somewhat of a hot rodder. Sometimes he gets going in traffic, he scares the dickens out of me. So I leave him a little note in his YouTube comments. I say, you know, when you drive like that, I have to hang on to my desk chair to keep from falling over. And he laughs at me because I'm an old grandma complaining about his driving on the YouTube channel. So I have fun that way. You know, we have to have fun where we can. If we let this stuff get to us, if we let it drive us crazy, then we contract our consciousness and we can't reach out. We can't trust anybody. We can't come up with a new idea to fix a problem. I think the internet has saved me from being a very contracted, scared little person. I find all kinds of ideas. I'm still on Facebook. I haven't abandoned Facebook yet. And that's because I sift and sort, and I put this article here and that article there, and this one here and that one there, and this one here and that one there. I have 14 pages that I post to on different topics, so I don't get kicked out, because I'm posting positive, helpful, friendly, humorous stuff. They don't want to kick me out. And the few things I put up that are exposures, I put where they are appropriately, you know. I'm not having problems at Facebook. I'm okay there. I have 8,000 friends, but I don't sell any books. I don't sell any books. Oh, well, it's okay. I can't complain.
I have unfortunately got threats that my YouTube channel will go down that they will take it away if I continue this way. So I don't know. Yesterday I talked to Fritz Springmeier. I will publish it on YouTube maybe during the weekend, but I have got threats that they will take down my channel.
They don't take me down. They just limit how many people can view what I do put up. And there's nothing I can do about it. I'm not monetized on YouTube at all. So they don't really care what I'm doing. And then I find the use of language is very important to stay out of the censor's way. I don't use standard terminology for problems. I beat around the bush so that their computers don't pick up my language, okay? I don't use standard language, and I personalize everything so that there's no sense that I'm threatening anybody, because that's what they are, that's what they're doing, is when there's an implied threat, they're taking down interviews. I just try to be as gentle as I can. So far it has worked.
Yeah.
So far so good.
Yeah, it's good. You know, it's the leadership of Google, or the ownership of Google, YouTube. Who are they? They are taking down good YouTube channels, but you have on YouTube is a YouTube channel like Killers. It has been there in several years. I maybe mentioned to you, and they are saying New World Order is coming. New World Order, it's a combination of Nazi system, fascist system, and communism. We will have. We will nuke huge cities, we will have harp disasters openly. And there is a video about FEMA concentration camps.
Yeah.
And you can see there, I don't know if you can see the picture, if you remember Janet Napolitano.
Yeah, I remember her. She's running UC Berkeley now.
Yeah, I know that. Can you see her there? It's from the YouTube channel Like Killers. She's sitting here in the YouTube video about concentration camps, FEMA concentration camp. And you have there another FEMA chief, Jeb Johnson, who was after her. Can you recognize him? And they have mark of a beast or the God, mark of God on their foreheads. This is
Wow.
this is from a YouTube video. Some of the YouTube videos are monetized, so you could check which bank account it's going to, and they are openly talking about killing, torturing people.
And see, I avoid those. I don't go there. I don't listen to that. I boycott the fear porn. I boycott fear porn.
You know
I'm
what
not.
I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
It.
But you know, we all die anyway. There's nobody.
But you know what? This YouTube channel is still on the internet when it's clearly Nazi propaganda. And you can see that DHS, Homeland Security, is together with them. Why should you pay taxes or why should you pay the debt? They are telling you clearly, obviously. We have done concentration camp, we have concentration camp for you, we will torture you, we will kill you, and you have picture of two chiefs of DHS. And
I choose not to go there. I'm not going to view their stuff. That's how I deal with it. I refuse to go to that channel. I refuse to view. I refuse to be recorded as viewing their stuff because their stuff is trash as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but I am more concerned about the legal system on. Also,
the way we fix the legal system is to turn our attention away from their proper exposition of their intentions. I don't go there. I don't go to Walmart. I don't go to McDonald's. I don't patronize the people. I don't patronize Monsanto. I don't patronize the local medical clinic because I'm red listed and all they'll give me is trash and red tape. They treat me very badly. There's no health care for me. I have to take care of my own health. I do not patronize the people who are saying that they have power to do me harm. Now, the fact is, I'm a human, I'm an old woman, and I'm on the schedule to die anyway. And so I'll die the way I want to die, not the way they want me to die. And I'm going to stay out of their way. And I'm going to find people that I can care about and who care about me. And we're going to trade skills and we're going to figure out how to do something better. I don't go to fear porn. I don't write fear porn. I don't predict trouble. I don't predict harm. That comes anyway. That's free. That's free.
But Emily, I'm talking about something else. This is the video. Mark of God, FEMA
Yes,
concentration
I
camp.
know they exist.
Wait, and you have pictures in this of two chiefs of Homeland Security, DHS, which is
Yes,
an organization that started after false flag 9/11.
right.
Your children in the United States cannot pay the debt that you have.
Yeah, that's right. And those debts need to be just written off because
Yeah.
they were never valid or legitimate in the first place.
Yeah, and you have here chiefs of DHS that should go to prison for planning of genocide, and
Right.
who are their masters? Who do they work for? I can show you one picture. Evelyn
Okay.
Rothschild.
Yes. Okay.
He has any property for all the crime that they have done.
You know, what goes around comes around, and there are parts of the system that we can attack that won't come back and harm us. There are parts of the system that we attack that causes a lot of, that prevent us from doing our work. When I attacked the Clintons and what they were doing in the 90s, and they were just as corrupt then as they are now, they put me on a list and they made my life miserable for a long time. So I learned, who can I attack and who can I not attack? Karma covers everything eventually. Okay. So you expose who you can expose without exposing yourself to harm. All right. I would never point out administrators in a hierarchy and call them criminals, because they will come after me personally. They have the power to do that. I will say, I do not trust DHS. I do not trust the administration of the University of California because of the way they treated me in 2000. Okay, that's where I draw the line in saying I do not trust the people who do that. I do not trust the establishment of camps where death is the primary purpose and call it part of my government. That is not a trustworthy operation. See how I've taken the personalities out of it? I take the personalities out of it and I talk about the establishment of an operation whose product is death. I'm talking about the same thing you're talking about, but I'm not going to get my YouTube channel canceled. I'm using different words. I'm not making it personal, and they don't bother me. And so that's a skill, a strategy I learned back in graduate school when we were doing negotiating skills. Okay? You don't go after individuals. You don't call out people personally. You talk about what the bureaucracy is doing. You talk about the laws that drive the bureaucracy. You talk about the outcomes that the bureaucracy is creating. But as long as you don't keep it, as long as you don't make it personal so that somebody can come back to you for slander or libel, you're safe. And your problem with YouTube may have something to do with pointing out individuals. And if you just point out the laws, the policies, and the outcomes, they'll leave you alone. You won't lose your YouTube channel. I don't have any trouble at all, either at YouTube or Facebook or Twitter.
I believe that if I wouldn't have said repeatedly the names from since 2013, so probably we wouldn't live today. I was forced to do it.
Oh, you were forced to do it. Well, okay.
Because how to, if you want to prevent a false flag, which is nuclear, for example, the nuclear false flag that you would have in California, 1st of October 2013. I was forced to written specific names. If the nuclear attack will occur, then these
Okay,
people
you're in
are.
a very different position because being in California, I'm so far away from the center of power that who can I talk about? I'm so far away from the center of power, and I've never been engaged in a governmental role in my life. Okay, I've never been associated with MI5 or 6 or Mossad or the Secret Service. I have no associations there. So we're in different positions. And the way I have learned to keep safe is to not be personal. But if that doesn't work for you, wow, okay, I'll pray for you. That's what I know how to do, is pray for people, and they keep going, because that's all we can do is keep going until we die, because we're all going to die.
Yeah. But at least we will not bow down to.
We will not bow down. Absolutely not. And we will not stoop and bow down to their methods in order to take them down. I'm not going to become like them in order to treat them the way they treat me. I'm not going to do that. That's not acting in accord with the principles that I know that work. I am not competitive. I do not hoard. And I do not waste. And I am worthy of trust. And those are the rules that I follow for myself. You do what you want. That's what I tell my roommates. You do what you want. I do it this way. And someday things will work out better. That's all we can do, is hope for.
Yeah.
And follow the creation and not the competition. Creation does not compete. Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you so much, Emily. Was it something something that you wanted to talk about more? We have talked now more than 1 hour, I believe.
yeah, well, one final little note. Religion, after all, is a head trip. It's a bunch of thoughts. And the way religion is taught now, it's a program, it's a doctrine, it's a dogma. My own personal experience is that I happen to be part of a bloodline that has telepathic skills. And at a very young age, I was able to contact other minds and hear their thoughts and share thoughts and learn from content that was not here, not just out of books, not just from what I heard, not just from my senses, but from clairaudience, clairvoyance, and telepathy. That's where I've got finally my education, is from the thoughts that I heard in meditation. There are faiths that teach meditation. There are faiths that teach self-care. There are faiths that teach human relationships and how to get along. The Beatitudes, the teachings of Jesus Christ about how to get along with people. Let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. Settle differences. Treat other people the way you want to be treated, and so forth, are the best in the world. They work, okay? We can't just swallow what our senses are telling us. We have to reach for the thoughts that are eternal and wise and beyond our senses. And that's how we get through this. And that's what I have.
Thank you so much. It was really great words.
I hope it's helpful. That's all I'm trying to do. Be helpful. And it's always wonderful to, when you give me the chance to express myself, it builds me, it makes me feel as if this work is truly needed. And I'm learning so much from you about Europe because you're making me explore Europe. And thank you so much for that. Learning is the best gift that we can get. Learning is always hard, but it's good.
Yeah.
Thank you too.
Thank you so much, Emily. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See ya. Let's see, how do I get out of here?